Here are my top 5 films of 2023 so far. Hey everyone, it's David Chen. I talk about TV, movies, tech, and the media. We're about halfway through 2023, so it's a good time to take a look back and see what stuck out in the year so far. It's been a pretty good year for movies. Let's go. I do want to mention before I start counting down that Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves barely missed my top 5 this year. It was a lot of fun, but there's a lot of good movies. So let's get to the top 5. Here we go. Number 5, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Obviously, this movie has been in the news recently because a lot of the animators who worked in the film said that it was an extremely painful, hellish experience, and I really hope Sony pays heed to their complaints and gives them better working conditions for the next film. But putting that aside, this is one of the most dazzling experiences I've had in the theater this year. It's one of those movies where you watch it and you realize it is pushing the art of animation forward. Beyond that, all the characters in the film are lovingly voiced and rendered. It's one of the most extraordinary pieces of art I've had a chance to experience. But the reason it's not higher is because it is only half a movie. This movie brings up big issues around trauma and its importance to making you who you are and whether or not we should try to stop it and so on. And I don't know what it's going to say about those subjects until I see the second half of the film. So I'm looking forward to seeing Beyond the Spider-Verse whenever it comes out and completing my experience. Number 4, Blackberry. We've seen a lot of these movies about companies come out like The Dropout and Air and Tetris. And of all those movies, this one is my favorite so far. I think it does 2 things really well. Number 1, it shows you that all this advancement in technology is not made without some kind of moral cost. And number 2, Blackberry used to control 50% of the smartphone market. Now they're completely irrelevant. And it does a good job of showing you this rise and fall and what it's like when you're somebody who helped to create an industry only to find one day that the industry doesn't care about you anymore. Number 3, Beau is Afraid. This movie is what it is like to be in someone's anxiety fever dream for almost 3 hours. There is nothing else like it. It's incredibly upsetting. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, and it's one of my favorite films of the year. Number 2, John Wick Chapter 4. One thing I really appreciate about the filmmakers behind John Wick is they really want to try to show you something new. They don't want to do a scene with nunchucks unless they can show you someone using nunchucks in a cool, unique way. They don't want to do an overhead action scene unless they can use really cool pyrotechnics. The filmmakers in this franchise are always committed to outdoing themselves, and this movie is no different. And finally, my number 1 film of 2023 so far, Past Lives. Almost all immigrant stories are from the perspective of the person who left and came to a new country. Past Lives tries to reflect what happens to all the stories that were interrupted when that person left. How would you feel and what would your experience be if you cared about someone and then all of a sudden they vanished? What would that do to your head? What are all the what ifs you would ask yourself? These are the questions that Past Lives brings to life. The performances in this movie are amazing. They shot a lot of this movie in New York, and you get to see how dehumanizing the city can be, but also how special it is to spend time with someone you care about in a city like that. Past Lives is a movie that will leave you reflecting on your own life and the decisions that you've made. And that, I think, is a sign of great art. Those are my top 5 movies of 2023 so far. Let me know what your top 5 movies were. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if there's anything I definitely need to check out before I make my top 10 for the end of the year. And if you enjoyed this video, I'm David Chen. Give me a like, follow, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.